We have a special treat this evening. The collaborator to the film Playing Dead, we have on the line from the beyond. Hello, Christopher.
Hello.
How are you this dreadful evening?
Uh, Pretty well. Doing okay.
That's wonderful. I have a few questions for you. You were the collaborator for Playing Dead, correct?
Yes, I was the filmmaker's collaborator.
Could you explain your relationship with Lindsay Denneberg?
Um, I guess friend, best friend, collaborator in films, videos, music, former roommate, uh, confidant, fan.
That's quite a list you got there.
Yeah, a lot of things. We're intertwined.
That's wonderful. Can you tell me what what the scenes that we just saw from the film, the death scenes? What was the thinking behind that? What happened with that? What's going on there? You know, in the mind of the creator. Do you know? Do you have an insight to it?
As far as I understand it, Lindsay, uh, the only way that she can imagine her own death is in these beautiful romantic images uh, that she recreated in
Ah, yes.
the video, and I think it's fueled by a childhood soaked in horror movies and Clive Barker and Stephen King and general darkly romantic ideas. I think that's a lot of it. I think that's where it comes from. You know.
Yes, I heard she learned to read from Stephen King.
I've heard that as well, and I think it's true. I think her first Stephen King uh, novel that she read was Pet Cemetery, which I also read recently and enjoyed very much. Um,
That's very interesting because I am actually on the set of Pet Cemetery right now.
really,
Yes.
it sounds like me.
Well, all the children of the dead are my pets.
Oh, that's good. I mean, everybody needs someone to, you know, come home.
Come home to.
Yeah.
Mm.
But
There's no place like home, they say.
yeah. Tomb, sweet tomb, right? Uh, Also, but I think with the images or the scenes, the death scenes that were that she shot, um, I think maybe with that she was, you know, externalizing those things and acting them out and kind of giving them a reality, and at the same time, simultaneously she's seeing how they are completely fictitious. You know what I mean? And something that couldn't be experienced, and something that is not attainable. Or something that it's just not reality. And I think that's interesting. That she wanted to do that. I think it's really great. You know.
That is very interesting. You know that actually brings me to a few questions I have for you.
Okay.
Um,
Mhm.
yes. If you could choose any way to die, what would it be?
Just die, not necessarily suicide.
Whatever floats your boat.
Okay, so I think that I would probably, I wish I had something more interesting, but probably in my sleep, very, very old. You know, it's either that or getting shot, shooting someone, and they're shooting me at the same time, and
Well, that's pretty violent.
that's how I die. Well, I don't one of those things, one or the other, to or stabbing or being stabbed, something like that. Probably something in a martial arts kind of battle and, you know, I die. I mean, I kill the person that I'm fighting, obviously, but then I've sustained injuries that I die from a short time after while saying something wise to someone else. So
How
that would,
Django of you.
yeah. So
Wow. So, is there anyone you could see in your life right now that would, be in this duel?
um I don't know. Maybe
Or if you could go back in time and shoot anyone, you know,
with
who would it
anyone,
be? Yeah, dead or alive. Preferably dead, of course.
preferably dead. Maybe it would be. I'm trying to think of who just jumps in to my mind. Um, I mean, honestly, I see someone with a top hat and a cape, probably, that looks sinister. But I'm not really sure. I don't know. Someone with impressive martial ability. Any
Hmm.
any any one of Jackie Chan's foes in any one of his films, I would gladly, you know, take on. I don't know. I,
How ironically cinematic.
yeah, I feel like I'm similar to Lindsay in that way, where it's, I have a lot of those ideas that are really just, you know, desires that are put through like this, prism of just endless movie watching, and how that's just soaked my brain. But at the same time, getting older, I'm realistically, I, would like to continue to live because I retain, hope about my future and one day come to a place where I really enjoy life. And I would also like to die without fear. And I think that dying in my sleep would be the best way to do that.
To the eternal sleep. I see.
You
A very popular answer. You're in good company.
yeah, you know. I just don't want to be afraid when I die. Or maybe
You don't want to be afraid.
I mean,
Don't.
maybe I do.
What do you like fear?
I I think that like I don't like real fear. Real fear is very caused me a lot of anxiety. Um, I mean, if we're talking about real fear of like something supernatural, like a monster or something like that, and I really feel fear about that, it's a really exhilarating and a really intense feeling that I wish I was more open to enjoying, but it really just I get so nervous that I can't really enjoy it. Which Lindsay has seen um, before how I react in those situations. Um,
Oh, really? Could you elaborate? Could you give us a little anecdote?
um, One time she was visiting me in the town that I'm from, and I took her to a cemetery, it's an almost abandoned cemetery that's down this dirt road, um, and you go and drive down this dirt road. And we went at night, and you get to this cemetery that's just like kind of a clearing in the woods, and these kind of headstones that are, you know, kind of overgrown. It's a pretty creepy place, and we got out and we looked around, and it was pretty spooky. And there's no lights or anything. And then we left, and we were driving back down the road to leave. And it's a long dirt road, and there's no lights. And I started to try to scare her because I like to scare people, you know. And I was, telling, yeah, and I was trying to, creep her out. And but I don't think I was really aware of how much she enjoys real fear, and so she turned it around on me and started scaring me really badly, like saying like, oh, there's someone standing out in the road. Do you see that person? And she kept stopping the car, and I got really really scared and started freaking out and yelling at her and telling her that if she didn't stop, scaring me, that I wasn't going to be her friend anymore, and that I was really afraid, and she really needs to stop because I'm freaking out, and this is not funny to me. I don't think this is funny at all. And she was just laughing, yeah, cackling. I don't think I may have never brought her that much joy up to that point and since. That was kind of good for me because I learned that different people respond differently to, you know, various sensations. Like, I feel real fear. I'm frightened. I'm really anxious. My body is, like, it's very, uh, you know, it's an intense feeling. And I can recognize it as that. And it's not all bad, but, like, I can't give myself over to that. And then I think I kind of learned that night that she's able to give herself over to that and really enjoy that. And I feel like after that I understood things that are scary and horror in a different way that I never did, because it was never like that for me. Like, being scared, I always just, like, enjoyed horror films, enjoy scary things, monster related things, but, like, not because I was afraid, just because I like, kind of, just the atmosphere, and it's comforting for some reason. I like a world where those things are possible, where they're very clear, good and evil, and but for other people it is very much based in a real fear and being scared, and they can enjoy that and give themselves over to that, and crave that, like, adrenaline, which I don't, because I'm a wiener, I guess. I can't handle that, you know.
So she's a monster junkie, is what you're saying.
She's a monster junkie. Definitely. She's jonesing for some Frankenstein werewolf, uh,
Dracula action.
yeah, she loves it, and I have to credit with her with getting me maybe to be more in touch again with that part of myself, and to really see it for what it was, which was just a really deep-seated monster mania, and also just a love, like a legitimate, warm-hearted love from the way someone loves Santa Claus, the way a child loves Santa Claus, where they're like, just this icon that they see that is just comforting and wonderful and magical. That's how maybe I see a lot of monsters. I don't know why.
So almost like family members.
A lot, like, yeah. Oh, definitely. Like, I had talked to Lindsay about this, that, like, I see, like, the monsters kind of as family members, or people that are just at least close and comforting, and real figures in my life, that, to say just, like, Dracula, like, is very normal to me, where I feel like to someone else to say Dracula, has a lot of things that accompany it, like, well, what does that mean? Like, Dracula's obviously a Transylvania thing, and it's scary or whatever. And me, it's just like, just Dracula. Just Dracula is just part of my life, and, with others that I discussed with Lindsay, there's other figures like that in my life, but the monsters are really, I don't know what it is. I mean, I think she's getting at something really interesting. There's a lot of us out there that are like, monsters are a big part of our identity, and I don't know why that is. I don't think I would reduce it to feeling kind of alienated and monsters are. I don't really identify with monsters, which I think in a way she does kind of identify with the monsters. I more am just really in love with the world that the monsters exist in. A world where, there's an immediate threat, and, you pursue it, and it's kind of gothic, and it's limited in a way. It's limited in the way that the real world is not, and the real world is just too overwhelming, like, in a certain way. Monsters have rules, and they're very easily identified, in fiction. So I don't know. I'm just rambling. Anyway, I'm sorry.
No, no, you've touched on something very, very interesting. What rules would you speak of? Like, if you could say top three rules for monsters, what would they be?
Top three rules for monsters. Like something that they all share, because I mean they each have their own individual kind of rules that accompany them. But
Perhaps Frankenstein's creature. What rules would he fall under?
I mean, in a really superficial way, he doesn't like fire,
Mm-hmm.
and also retains some kind of shred of like humanity in a certain way. That in a way, an emotional appeal can work against Frankenstein's monster. You know, whereas with a
Mm-hmm.
vampire, by and large, in the really generic sense of it, an emotional appeal won't work. Which makes them frightening because they appear to be the most human. You know, um,
Hmm. Have you seen Twilight?
I have not, but I was gonna say that I haven't seen Twilight. But what I know, revisiting Paul Naschy's films, and how
Yes, yes. I'm good friends with him. Yes.
I, I would, I could imagine, that. I can imagine you two hanging out eating cheese sandwiches. I think that would be a night to experience.
I must say he's quite a shit talker.
I can imagine that. Um, but when you're that good, you know, sometimes you earn the right to talk some shit.
Oh yes, he's more than earned the right.
But I was gonna say, seeing. Maybe I would like Twilight because I, realized how damn melodramatic and romantic, Naschy movies are, and maybe I just like that kind of thing. I've realized that more and more about myself now that I really like melodrama, and I really like romance, and I really like nice things that have very simple ideas about what is right and what is wrong, and you know that's why I like a lot of less morally ambiguous Hong Kong movies. They're very clear in that way, and also, but that's why I like horror movies. I mean, of course, my adult mind loves things like David Cronenberg. Um,
Mm-hmm.
because that's something for adults. And not to say that the other types of horror movies aren't for adults, but like I really enjoy those in a different kind of way. You know, so
Well, when you weren't an adult, when you were a child, what movie scared you the most?
when I was a child, um,
Yes.
well, I think the thing that's interesting about when you're a child is that the movie doesn't necessarily have to scare you. Like, just the trailer is enough to just horrify you. The trailer is oftentimes much more frightening than the film because you see Freddy Krueger and then you
Hmm.
just see flashes of him. And then you take that with you. Maybe you saw it on television, and then in your bed at night, you just have these flashes of Freddy Krueger. Like, what could that be? And the horror, like now of what, because your mind is imagining something that it's the scariest thing in the world, and so just the image of Freddy Krueger was really really scary, and the idea of him, and also, um, even before I had seen Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I had seen clips from it in the film Summer School, and just the idea of that movie was so scary to me, like I couldn't, and and then I remember once my brother was watching Rocky Horror Picture Show, and
Hmm.
he really liked that movie, and like I was walking in and out of the room because I wasn't watching it, but the brief moments that I caught, I didn't know what the movie was. I didn't understand. I just saw images of like Tim Curry looking the way he did, and like kind of parts of that scene with Meatloaf, and that mouth, that scared the shit out of me, and I would have nightmares about that because of what I thought that could possibly be. It would just be the scariest thing in the world. So a lot of those things, like
So it's the gaps, the holes of information that you don't get that scare you the most.
Exactly, and that's why it's strange, like that I was so scared of the ideas of so many of these things. And then I feel like maybe in overcompensating or something or coming to terms with that, I got so rabidly interested in horror movies and they're such a part of me now because I feel like I understand them. There's no gap there anymore. There's no like mystery, that could potentially be terrifying. I understand them, and in a way that's really comforting. But then somehow through that, I ended up at this place of they're really, really close. I mean, I don't know if I would make a distinction between loving horror movies and then also loving monsters because they are kind of, different in a way, but that's a whole nother thing, you know.
You can elaborate.
I mean, because monsters exist in a lot of different uh, you know, forms, like, literature or uh, in a film or even music or just a story, and they're these icons and they're, um, I don't know, and in being icons, they're reduced to something kind of simple. Um, and I think that more as I get older, I realize that I'm drawn to seemingly simple forms because I find like a stability there, you know, and even though I'm not a Christian, I mean I'm very familiar with the idea of Jesus Christ, and you know, even though maybe it is very complex, in a way it's a very simple idea. You know what I mean? He's a very recognizable character, and I think that's a lot of the power of of Jesus Christ. But I guess what I'm saying is I think monsters are like that too, just like Santa, and they can transcend whatever fictions they're in to just become these icons and these ideas, Whereas a horror movie is a very specific thing that operates in a certain way, and it's a film, and it has, its filmic rules and, you know, structure in the way that it operates and an idea, and those are, I can see those more as films. Like with something like George Romero, I think he kind of walks a line, where he created something very iconic in the fact, strangely, something iconic that thrives on a kind of anonymity, that, The Living Dead could be anybody, it's just a mass. But at the same time, his films are so, don't really give in to a certain kind of, I don't know, atmospheric kind of escapism that other horror films do, like maybe a Hammer film or like a gothic horror film. So I feel like he kind of walks the line there, but I don't know. That was the other turning point. Once I saw George Romero movies, I really the first video I ever owned was Night of the Living Dead that my mother bought me. She bought my brother the BMX movie Rad, and then she bought me Night of the Living Dead when I was like maybe 8, and gave it to me and said, "Yeah, this kind of seems like the kind of thing you're into." And I was like, I guess I like monsters, and then I just fell in love with that movie, and then subsequently Dawn of the Dead and Day of the Dead. Romero is very comforting to me, very, very comforting,
Yes, I remember talking in an old interview with Lindsay Denneberg that she too received Night of the Living Dead from her mother. And
Weird.
yes, I couldn't remember if it was Hanukkah or Christmas. It was probably a mashup of the two. But
Isn't it weird though that certain the way that parents must view some of their children, and like how they obviously when a parent has a child, they imagine them being something. They want them to be something particular. They think they want them to be really smart. And like if it's maybe a girl traditionally, or it's widespread that they're going to want them to, have all these the 16th birthday and the wear the dresses and all that stuff. And for a boy, you're going to play sports or whatever you're going to do. I don't know, be in the Boy Scouts. I don't really know. What I'm saying is, like, it's funny that they have these ideas, and then the reality comes when the kid's personality starts to form and they start to see them, and they have to kind of come to terms with, like, who is this thing that I'm living with, And, and they...
This creature.
Yeah, exactly, a creature that they live with. And then they start to make an effort, kind of, like, where they're like, well, we know he likes this kind of thing. kind of. We know he likes monsters, you know, and so here you go. Here's this, which maybe an 8-year-old shouldn't have Night of the Living Dead, but I'm glad I did, you know. But my spotlight.
You seem like a fully formed human being to me.
Yeah, I think I am now or then.
All of the above.
Okay, but I just think that's
And
interesting.
even in death.
In maybe I don't know. I hope so. I can't imagine myself.
I
Dead.
know so.
Well, you have knowledge of the beyond. You know,
Baby, this is the beyond.
maybe I need to watch the Beyond again. I haven't seen that. I think that just thinking about that now, the Beyond is the most. That might be the most horrific. That might be the best horror film title ever, possibly.
It is. It is quite a good title. And also, Stuart Gordon's The Beyond is pretty damn good as well.
Oh yeah, that is great. From Beyond, I haven't seen in a while. From Beyond, From Beyond at least though, gives some indication of our world, because if something's coming from beyond, like kind of the unsaid in that is that, well, it's coming to here, which is the place that we know. So it's like gives you some kind of foot to stand on. Just the beyond is like the most horrifying idea possible. like the most unknowable, horrifying thing. Just the beyond. I think that's just amazing. Like, I don't know. I love that.
Speaking of what you said about trailers and fragments of the cinema, not the whole cinema, just representations of it. Again, in another interview I had with Lindsay, we have coffee every once in a while. She mentioned how her father, when she was 10, gave her a poster of The Beyond, and she had not seen the film, but he elaborated that this would be good to put on your bedroom door, because your room quite literally is the beyond.
Wow. And they know. I feel like
Yes.
isn't it strange the things that come into your life, like they don't know really. Like I don't even know if my mother had seen Night of the Living Dead. But actually, then when I was older, she gave me for Christmas a VHS of House of Wax, and she was like, "This was." I remember I saw this in the movies, and it was so scary. We saw it in 3D, Vincent Price, and I was like, "Oh, that's awesome," you know. And like her kind of like trying to reach out to me like in a certain way. But with the Night of the Living Dead thing, I'm not even sure if she'd ever seen that, really knew what it was. I mean, she had some idea probably. But your father, I'm fairly sure he had never seen the Beyond, you know, like which.
You mean Lindsay's father?
I mean, yeah. Sorry. I'm fairly sure that Lindsay Denneberg's father had never seen The Beyond, you know? And so he gets this thing, you know, which it's a cool poster. I remember when it was the re-release, I'm assuming, you know, and gives this to her, not really knowing what it is, you know, and then you get older and you kind of realize what that is, and like you just feed off that and look at it and imagine, and I actually think the great thing about Italian horror movies is that they really, a lot of them don't disappoint. They might be some of the few films that I think actually can live up to your imagined dread. And I think a lot of it has to do with the scores. And, you know, Sergio, Silvati, I think does the lighting, in Fulci's movies. And I think something about Fulci, he comes really close to being just as unnerving as your nightmares and your uncertainty is, and there's so much uncertainty in his films that you don't get the relief that a lot of films give you. I think that's really amazing about the Italian horror films. So to have The Beyond on Lindsay's wall is just, she was doomed. I mean, to just be the way that she is, which is great. I'm glad.
Yes. She was born dead.
Born dead, yeah.
Speaking of which, that brings me to my next list of questions. We do know your fantasy, how you would like to die, but deep down, how do you think you would really die?
How am I really gonna die?
Yes.
Probably, I'm gonna say, I imagine that I'll either commit suicide at some point, not anytime soon, and or I will probably die of a disease. I don't imagine myself dying in a car crash. I don't expect that. I mean, nobody expects that. But I don't know. I don't think I'll die in a crash or something. But I think I'll just probably cancer. I'll probably die of cancer. You know.
Yes, that's a popular one as well.
Yeah. I mean,
But I've noticed in since you are the collaborator that Lindsay's death imagery that we saw not too long ago, a lot of it was suicide. Do you think there's
yeah.
a connection between that? Is it a like what is it about the suicidal image that is so captivating?
Well, I think that there maybe for her and some people there seems to be an element of control there, you know, and it almost grounds your fantasy in a somewhat of a reality because you can imagine all you want that you're gonna die, you know, riding a horse into battle or like having been stabbed in the chest, like in the arms of your lover, taken poison, but that involves circumstances that are out of your control. So I think with suicide, it's really at least it has some degree of like attainability and control because I mean you could slight your wrists. You can do these things on your own. You don't need the outside world, and I think maybe that has something to do with it. You know, that you maintain. You have some kind of control and something you could do. You could set up the circumstances in such a way that you could hang yourself or shoot yourself or something like that. Throw yourself out a window. But I think the thing that realizes that the result of those things, it's probably not going to look the way that are imagining. No one, not that I know of, I don't think anybody really looks cool dead. The real death looks very stupid, like really very dumb and very unattractive and unromantic, But, so I think, honestly, weirdly, like, suicide fantasy seems to be a weird hybrid of the obvious romantic death fantasies that certain people have, Lindsay has, and then also a kind of realism, in a way, at least an acknowledgement that the world works in a certain way. My tape recorder just stopped.
That is okay. We can go on the photo booth sound.
Okay, cool. But I think that has something to do with it.
But no, that seems like a very good answer. It seems like the the controlled image of suicide seems to be a control almost as if something just happened in my graveyard. Oh, it's just the living dead. Anyway,
the fact that I can't see it, I'm imagining something really horrifying.
Oh, you can't even imagine. Believe me, you don't.
It's
want
like
to know.
it's the beyond. You are in the beyond right now. The image at the end of the beyond, where they go into the beyond, also is another example of why, Fulci is brilliant, because that is not. I don't find that disappointing. He shows you the beyond, and it is so frightening to me. Just a really drab, gray, alien, cold kind of world with featureless and just unending. And you just look into the beyond, and it is just this void that is so frightening to me. Like,
yes, I completely agree. You won't believe the lines to get into it over here. They're dreadful themselves.
This is too dry, or if I'm rambling, it's hard because I.
Oh no, this is some good shit. Let's just keep going.
This is some good shit.
Good shit. But yes, well, before I get on to the next question, I do want to mention how the image of suicide, the romantic version, of course. It almost seems like, Lindsay is trying to be God in her own way. Would you say so?
I mean, I think, that's a part of it. And also it's a part of deciding to, that a big part of what she likes to do with her, videos and films, and her work is a lot about creating these worlds, these fantasy worlds, and being in total control. And it's strange that the only real you can only exert a seeming amount of control over things in your life, and the only thing you can, I feel, really honestly, the most concrete thing you can do, decision you can make, the most solid, unshakable, unchangeable thing you can do is kill yourself. You cannot in any way ensure, by some people's standards, that you're going to have a good life, that terrible things aren't going to happen to you. The only thing you can really you have control over is when your life is going to end, not how good or terrible it's going to be. I mean, some people could say that's a matter of perspective, but I mean, that's a whole nother, discussion. But so that's the only real control of the most major thing. It's length, I guess the duration of your life. You have control over that, and with a film, or something like that, it's similar. You have a control, and you control beginnings and ends and structures and things like that. And so I think it is a kind of playing God, or just wanting some kind of control. You know what I mean? I think you could look at it that way. I know it's not always that, but I think that's a part of it, I'm not qualified to talk about it, really.
That is perfectly fine. We allow all types here. But let me get to probably the most important question, and please feel free to be as honest as possible. Do you believe in ghosts?
That kind of freaked me out. I felt like a ghost was gonna come out from behind me at that moment.
Look out behind you, Christopher.
Ooh, I don't want to stop.
No, look behind you.
Oh, I hate you. That's not funny to me.
Oh, no.
Oh, I hate that so much. That is, that really, you.
Do you feel that wisp of air on your
Oh,
of your
stop.
neck?
God, why is this so frightening to me? I don't know why that freaks me out.
Oh my god, no, I'm serious. Look behind you.
Stop it! That is not funny. Please stop. Oh, you don't even know what's behind me right now. It's just like a black curtain. It's a fucking black curtain that's behind me.
God.
That something could be behind, and that I don't. I hate that. I don't know what it is. That just bothers me.
I'm just letting you know you should check underneath your bed.
Stop
before you
it!
go to sleep
Stop it!
tonight.
I'm saying
Do you really
stop.
want to die in your sleep where Freddy is waiting for you?
Oh, please stop. That's not funny.
Okay, I'll stop.
I'm an adult man, and I don't know why that still frightens me in some way. I have real problems. Like, money
You being
and
my friend
career
is
and
one of the
things, or
problems.
whatever people worry about. I don't need to worry about monsters too. One time my sister asked me, we were talking about horror movies or something, which she's getting into, and she's just like, what's really scary to you? And I was like, what does it mean? I'm like, not the things that are scary to you, like ghosts or whatever. I'm like real things, like dying alone. You know what I mean? But actually, I've come to kind of realize now that I guess I am kind of scared of like monsters and things that I don't believe in consciously, but I still am kind of scared. I feel like there's a part of myself that won't let myself give myself over to those kind of feelings,
Mm-hmm.
Like, hello?
Yeah.
Hello?
Yes, I
Oh, sorry. I feel like there's a part of myself that won't let myself give myself over to any feeling where I feel like where I don't have control, or I have less control, and like that's why I really came to like kind of admire Lindsay and other people that can get really scared and like be into it and go with it. Like just then, I was legitimately scared, you know, for a moment, or like
You should be.
stop. I don't. That makes me uneasy. Like, and I'm so afraid of feeling. I'm afraid to feel afraid because I don't like feeling out of control.
Yet you seem to love the monsters anyway.
I do. I mean, I just the way that I don't know. I believe in Dracula more than I believe in Frankenstein. You know.
Hmm.
I mean, no. I mean, I was gonna
I
say.
guess the answer is you do believe in ghosts.
I guess it's hard to say what. Yeah, I guess if my beliefs exist somewhere in some pre-conscious place, I guess there's a part of me that is very afraid of the idea that something could be there. It's a very base fear that I have that something's there, and
Something is always there.
maybe in a way like I seek, someone, you secretly want that something is there, you know, like like all the things like your life, and the way that it goes and all the hardships and all these things that are accumulating circumstances and bad decisions and all these things, and the world becomes very real and everything becomes really unspectacular in a certain way. Maybe in a deep way, like, my last bastion of hope in a certain way is that there are ghosts or there is something scary, and that would change everything. You know what I mean? I feel like I should be willing to give myself over to that more, I mean, I don't know.
Come to the dark side, you're welcome here.
I should, I mean, I don't know.
There's
I
a
don't.
gravestone with your name on it.
uh, and it's funny that that the natural, I must have some streak of like, even though I can't manage my own life, like I have some weird streak of practicality that instead of being like, I could just live like a monster lifestyle, like, or horror related lifestyle, my goal is to make a horror, maybe one day make a horror film or make a film, because at least I'd have control, and that's some degree of practicality, and that's a product, and that's something that other people would see. But like, I wish I was more in touch with the idea that it would just be an end in itself to just give myself over to like horror and monster mania and just be like, this is just my life, and this is, it's good, and I'm just living my life and enjoying this. It's to no end. I don't have to make a horror film or something like that. I don't know. It's something I've been thinking about recently.
You should consider it, because the parties are off the hook.
I can imagine. Oh God.